AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need. All about the birds. It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to the AATBirds Gameplan. Eagles Bucs. It's like the Eagles kryptonite. It's been tough, especially 1:00 games. Fun fact of the show here is the last time the Eagles won a day game in Tampa Bay. Who was the starting quarterback? Little
Nick Foles.
It was Nick Foles. If you saw my post today, you would see that was the game. 2013. He actually won in 2012 and 2013. 2012 was the Jason Avant catch, the one-handed grab, unbelievable catch. 2013 was, of course, the first year with Chip, and they won in Tampa. Otherwise, they've won night game in Tampa, but they have not won a day game.
Yeah, interesting. I vaguely remember a sweet catch by Macklin in that game.
I believe you are correct. I think in that game,
front pylon, front right pylon. Yep, I
believe that was a catch by Jeremy Macklin. But it's it is their kryptonite, and it's tough. You're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles going in there, and the Bucs have dealt with a ton of injuries on their offensive line, and of course Mike Evans. So they've dealt with some injuries. And this week, as we got, I believe it was yesterday, the Eagles made their post. I thought it was going to be a couple practice squad because I saw Eli Ricks was going to be added. Yeah. So I thought, okay, they'll make a move or two. It was maybe by far the longest post that I've ever seen. The Eagles roster moves-wise, all in one. Yeah.
9 moves.
All in one. So to quickly recap and go over the moves that were done. So what happened was the players who were put on IR was Darius Cooper, which we had kind of talked to. You and I were talking back and forth because and the 3 guys who were put on IR, they said nothing to be season ending or anything like that. They should be able to be back. It's not season ending injuries. But it was Darius Cooper with the shoulder. Yeah. It was Jacorian Bennett. I'm not sure what he was linked to. I'm not sure what the injury was, if they even said that. I know Darius Cooper got hurt with the shoulder. That's the reason we knew that. But I didn't see anything with Bennett. And I know he took out, I believe it was either the holder or the kicker on that Jordan Davis block and scoop. And then, of course, the one surprise was Nolan Smith with a strained triceps.
Yeah.
Does not need surgery. It's just a little concerning because I believe that's the same exact arm and injury. I believe it's the same injury that he had in the Super Bowl. Well, not same injury, but same area. But those 3 guys were the ones that were put on IR. You had the guy signed to the 53 was Perry Nickerson, the corner. You had Marcus Epps, which we had you and I were talking back and forth that he was at elevations. He's going to be in. And Cam Latu, which, again, it's nice to see. And I believe we're going to see him a lot more on the offensive side of the ball when they're blocking and certain packages like that. But the 3 guys who were added to the practice squad was Eli Ricks back, Lance Dixon, linebacker from Toledo and Penn State, and old friend, wide receiver Quez Watkins.
Oh.
And they gave him number 46 too. That's
good.
Even funnier.
He deserves that. The timeline was not happy.
No, it was not. But the moves were crazy. All these moves, and just, that's why I put in there big Eagles injuries, because like Jacorian Bennett, you consider it's a pretty big because he was playing a little bit and he was working his way to, getting more snaps on the starting defense. Yeah. But Nolan Smith is a huge injury because of everything he does for your defense. He's one of your starting edges. So now it pushes guys up. Is it Darius Smith, Jalix Hunt, and you have the Josh Uche, and then one of the other guys who usually get inactive on game day, either Azeez Ojulari or Obo Okoronkwo, one of those guys are going to be
Yeah.
playing some pass rush downs.
I wouldn't be surprised if both get the call, because like Patrick Johnson's great in special teams, but now you have Latu, you have Epps on the 53 that you don't need to elevate to play special teams reps. And he doesn't give you much from like a base defense perspective.
Mm-hmm. Did I forget? I also forgot to mention they claimed Xavier Gipson off of waivers from the Giants. I forgot about that. So they claimed him, and then they released Kenyon Green again.
Yeah. Lots of 11 total moves this week.
Yeah.
Which is wild. That's how he was bored. So I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be shocked if Patrick Johnson does dress, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, and they go heavy at edge. The biggest thing with Nolan is that was a extreme surprise. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Not even the beats saw that coming. And so that was it was a shock, and B, he's been, and I said this on X the other day, like he's been phenomenal in the run game and better than I thought he would be. And Jalix Hunt is similar, but not quite where Nolan is. But like he is amazing at setting the edge and blowing up pulling guards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of teams look at him and they look at Jalix and they go, oh man, he's 240 soaking wet. Let's run at him with one of our big guys and see what we can do. And he continuously just wrong arms and stonewalls pulling linemen like they're children. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch and super impressive for a guy his size. I mean, he took Elkton Jenkins out of the playoff game last year, just blowing his shit up on a pull on a power. So, I mean, and you could see it as soon as it happened. He just hung his head, grabbed his arm. So it'll be up to guys like Uche, who's not really known for his run defense. Ogbo is not a run guy. Jalix is probably better in the run than he is in the pass right now. He's just got to learn a little bit on how to use his hands and set up his guy, right? With counters. He has to go with more of a plan, as they say. But like Zadarius Smith is going to have to learn the full playbook. I think he was saying in his locker like he only knew sub packages because he's fairly new. He's going to be relied on to drop into coverage. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs go after the edges, especially in the run game, just to see what we're made of.
I'm also going to be interested too and see, do they now? I think it's going to depend on Dory Jackson. If Dory Jackson's not going to play, I believe Eli Ricks will be elevated to at least have.
Oh, he has
play,
to. Yeah.
Just because of the outside corner area there, and just. Let's unpack that real quick. So, like, let's say a Dory Jackson he dresses. So you have your starting three. You have Ricks, you have Mac McWilliams, and now Perry Nickerson. So like you have 6 there that can dress. But do you go heavy there? So you have to look at it this way. If the Eagles don't bring up anybody from the practice squad, you only need 5 inactives. Essentially 4 inactives because one of the quarterbacks is going to be a third quarterback.
Right.
So you essentially only need 4 guys. So are those 4 guys going to be, let's say, if you think both edge rushers and Obo and Aziz are going to be called up, say Patrick Johnson, there's one.
Yeah. McKee.
Now, I already said one of the guys. So McKee, Patrick Johnson.
Yeah.
What happens at the running back position? Do you have Tank Bigsby and Will Shipley and all the guys? What happens with, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I would think Drew Kendall would be not dressed. One of the O linemen, because usually it was Kendall and Green. So say Kendall's not dressed. That means there's 2 more spots. Do you maybe bench one of the tight ends, a Kylan Granson? Does he maybe not see the field if you have Cam Latu? what do you do with
question.
what do you do with the the secondary there? It's going to be interesting to see what they do and see how they want to play it here. And I wouldn't be surprised if, say, I could see your point in with the edge rushers, having both of them there just to have them, just in case with snaps, because it's Darius Smith and Jalen. You want to have, if you may have to do a little bit better rotation, and you want to make sure you don't want to go in there with only 4 edge rushers and say somebody else gets hurt, and then you're down to just 3 guys. And I know, Jahad Campbell has worked his way, doing some different things, but you want to make sure you have the edge rushers and actual edge rushers. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the Eagles do, because next week, Nakobe Dean can come off of PUP and start practicing. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But it's just interesting when you look at the Eagles roster, and the injuries have really threw a wrench in kind of what they were doing and what they're planning in the roster, and just a lot of maneuvering. But when you look at the Bucs have the same type of issue. And you have Mike Evans, who hurt his hamstring late in that game, is not going to be playing. You had Chris Godwin working his way back with an ankle from that horrific ankle injury, and he limited practice on Wednesday, did not practice today. So that's never a really good sign. So we'll see where that plays, because their depth at receiver really isn't good right now if Evans and Godwin both don't play.
Have they said anything about why he didn't practice today?
It just said DNP. That's all that I saw. And of course, with their offensive line, if they get worse back, it helps them because it maneuvers some guys around, but it puts Barton from left tackle to center, and it puts Bredeson from center to guard. So it kind of helps their position, the positions there, but their right side will still be pretty weak in Elijah Klein and Charlie Heck because of injuries that they've had. So and of course, their defense is struggling too with some injuries. Cansey got hurt a couple weeks ago. Logan Hall's been out. Christian Izzy. So they're battling a lot of injuries as well. So, there's a lot that goes into this game. It's going to be stinking hot and humid down in Tampa. No shit. Yeah. It's September in Florida. There's really nothing else you can expect but hot. And of course, Eagles will be wearing their midnight green, which is usually the case. That's what the Bucs usually do in the summertime months, or the late. Smart. The early fall, late summertime months, that's what they do. Yeah. And, it's smart by them, but season.
It initially looked like it was going to rain on Sunday, and I was like, oh, well, joke's on you. It's not going to be that hot. But it's moved to Saturday. Sunday should be nice and hot. Unfortunately. I think they said the real feel is 103 on the field.
Pickle juice. Just get your pickle juice.
Yeah, hell yeah. Let's do it. Dill or bread and butter? It's got to be dill, right?
Yeah, it's got to be dill.
It's got to be dill. I mean, we are used to the heat to an extent, right? Like, we had a pretty hot training camp this year. I think Vic's going to have those guys ready, especially on defense. I'm not too worried about the heat. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if Jordan Davis can not cramp up this time. I know he had an issue. What was it, in week 2? It was pretty hot and humid in Kansas City.
Yeah.
He had some cramp in there. So, again, we're only like 2 weeks removed from a similar environment. So I'm not super worried about the heat. It's a mindset, as Vic says. But yeah, just a quick Google search on Godwin. There's conflicting reports. One is that there could be a potential setback. The other is that it was the plan all along to get him a full practice and then rest him, and then he'll be back in shells tomorrow. Now, I did hear that the Eagles are actually traveling down early.
Yeah.
Tomorrow to get acclimated to the weather, to get a head start there. So, kudos to them. But one of the things that's interesting to me, that will be interesting to me, especially after the Rams game and those kickoffs, will be the strategy that teams take when kicking to us specifically. I think the whole team's going to try to mimic that style of kicking that the Rams pulled off on their kick returns. I think that was smart, and they really, really messed with our kick returners. So I wouldn't be surprised if people start to do that specifically against us, but all across the league. And And it will be interesting to see, to your point, who's inactive at the running back position and who they put that back there at kickoffs. Because, like, they reportedly brought in Tank for his kick returning prowess. Didn't look great last week. No one did. But Shipley's back as arguably our best kick returner. And then you have Gibson, who we picked up off waivers. There's an obvious emphasis on finding a kick returner and a punt returner for this team that doesn't play in our regular offense or defense. So my assumption there would be that Tank and Gibson are the starting kick returners, with Gibson taking punt return duty. And then, if there is an issue with ball security or, receiving those kicks, then maybe Shipley gets back there to help out. But interested to hear your take there.
I think you're right in that fact that, like, they want Bigsby back there, of course, but I just don't think Mechie is an option. So if they're kicking away from Bigsby, you got Gibson back there. You have those two guys, and then Gibson can be your punt returner and not have to have Dotson doing that. Because, and I feel like
punt return, right?
Yes, punt return. And, like, I think too, when you look at that, that helps the aspect of getting those positions situated. But also when you look at the offensive side of the ball, because I want to talk about the Eagles offense because it was absolutely dreadful. We talked about it in the post game recap. And I think one thing that hopefully they start to trend towards is a lot more 11 personnel, because I think it's going to help them in all phases, whether it's the run game, whether it's the pass game. I think it's going to help in all different phases, because when you have 11 personnel, it's going to spread the defense out a tiny bit more than if you were playing 12 or 13 personnel. And plus, especially when you're playing 12 and 13 personnel and you have guys who are all jumbled up in there who one can't block or get blown off, their blocks. And then basically there's nowhere to go. If you have 11 personnel and doing some RPO type of stuff, it's going to open up a lot more. And I think that's something that this team needs to start doing a little more, because open up the offense. We've talked about it. They need to do that. And I feel like they were doing so well with that late in the second half against the Rams, being able to move the ball because they were spreading out the defense. They were able to do some different things and, trusting their quarterback to make the throws. And that's what he did.
Well, and there's two things there. One, I think the advantage there and the thought process there would have been terrific with a guy like Johnny Wilson. I think that was a big loss because you put him on the inside in a trips formation and he becomes essentially a second tight end. But from a personnel perspective, you have to match up like it's three receivers. So, like, that was a big loss, and I think that's what they were going to try to do with Johnny. But also, to your point of spreading out the defense, like, our offensive line, they can be bullies, but they are just so damn good in space. Like, if you get them pulling around the edge and you get a Juergens or a Dickerson on a linebacker or a defensive back, like, it's curtains, man. Like, those guys are so good on the run. They are so good at taking 1 to 2 people down with them. I agree. I think they obviously showed tremendous success when they got a little bit more aggressive. They made the defense think more than they had been in the first half, or really the previous 2 games. Is Hurts going to keep it? Is Saquon going to keep it? Is he going to pull the ball out and throw it in the middle of the field to Goddard? Like, they really made him think in that second half. And I think Hurts alluded to it in his post game, like, it's time to take the reins off. It's time to let this shit go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of the second half offense. I also wouldn't be surprised if we come out like the first half again before Jalen throws a fit and, makes him turn it loose a little bit. We have a tendency to dial it back to where we struggled to see if it'll work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to say that, but I feel like Sirianni has a tendency to be like, hey, that first half should have worked. We just didn't execute. Let's try it again. And then you're like, well, shit, it's not working again. And then you either get a blowout or you have to come from behind. But I think going back to the kick returners, like, if we can get some better returns, we'll have better field position. And I think that opens up the offense a little bit more too. I think part of why we didn't see them turn it loose in backed up in their own zone is because there's more room for error in that particular instance. And like one bad throw is 6 points to the other team when you're on the 15-yard line. So I think that had a lot to do with the play calling as well. And I think that's probably something that we're not talking about enough as to why the offense looked so damn bad in that game.
Yeah, and I think too, like one of the big things to watch is the edge rushers, defensive line from the Bucs against the Eagles' offensive line, especially keeping an eye on seeing if Lane's going to play, trending towards that way, but they did not have him last year in Tampa. They didn't have A.J. Brown last year. They didn't have Devontae Smith. They missed a lot of guys last year in Tampa Bay.
And DeJean wasn't playing yet full-time.
DeJean was not playing full-time yet. It was Avonte Maddox out there. So they had missing a lot of pieces, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice to have Smitty and AJ against the secondary of Tampa Bay. But again, you're going to have to see too. Todd Bowles is going to bring the blitz. He's going to bring pressure. He's going to do that. So Jalen and the Eagles offense have to be set up to the fact of hot routes and being able to beat the pressure and make them pay when they bring pressure. And, you don't have to take the chunk yards, but if you can get positive yardage and not take sacks, it's going to put you ahead of the sticks and it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting.
As you were speaking, and we already talked about how the weather is similar in Kansas City, it actually kind of reminds me a lot of the matchup against Kansas City, right? Banged up wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a gunslinger quarterback that's not afraid to run, right? That's one thing that I'd keep an eye on. If I'm the Bucs and I'm Baker, I'm looking to find the same lanes that Mahomes was finding. You're playing in a hostile environment that we don't play well in. You're playing in hot, humid weather. It really, and you're going against a DC that loves to blitz and has historically had success against Lane or Jalen.
Yeah.
So I know I keep saying this, but this game, I feel like the Kansas City game prepared them for this game, which sounds weird because you're talking about like defending, they were 3-time Super Bowl champions. They just came off a Super Bowl berth. Like it feels weird to compare them to the Bucs and not the Bucs to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're 3-0 for a reason. Very similar play styles to what I think we got in Kansas City. So I really do think this prepared us a little bit more than I'd initially thought.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too because, like the Bucs, their first 3 games, they've had to come down and they've won each of those 3 games at the end.
So have we.
Yeah, so
we're not blowing out cupcakes either, man. Like we literally had two consecutive field goal blocks to win that game. Like people were acting like we're blowing teams out. I mean, we're not. We are 3-0, and I'm glad to be 3-0, and we'll do whatever it takes. But like, these are hard fought games. People are coming at us with everything they got, and so the Bucs are no different. They're winning. They're finding ways to win.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, when you look at the matchups aspect of it, like the matchup that I'm looking at is the Eagles pass rush against this Tampa offensive line, because the Eagles pass rush, they've kind of struggled, the edge rushers, of getting like pressure. Like the Eagles defense itself has 3 sacks in 3 games.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
And Vic has had to dial up the blitz a lot more than he usually does. So,
and doesn't Jordan Davis have 2 of those?
Does he have 2 or 1.5?
He at least has 1. Makuba has the other with Za'Darius. Who was the third?
Let me see.
Ojomo got his first career sack. So you have those. That's you have a safety and two interior linemen are the only people getting sacks. Now that's not to say that we're not getting pressure. The pressure is still it's been good. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet per se. But like for example, the pass rush led to that interception against the Chiefs to seal the game. So it's there. They're just not. They're not finishing. And
that's the biggest thing is you got to finish.
But no Nolan Smith.
Yeah,
Zadarius is going to have to play full time, which I don't think anybody really wants, including him. Maybe he does. And then you got smaller guys like Uche. You got, not to say he's small, but he's smaller than Zadarius Smith. He's more of a speed finesse guy that doesn't really succeed too much in the run. You got Jalen Hunt, who is better in the run game. I think we talked about this. Needs to formulate a little bit more of a plan, and he'll get better in, a year or two. But then you have maybe Ojulari and Ogbo.
So I thought about something here.
Uh-oh.
What if they do bring two guys up from the practice squad, and it's Eli Ricks? Now, let's say Adori's not playing, and it's Eli Ricks. And what about Gabe Hall? And then maybe you have a Jalen Carter play a couple outside snaps, edge snaps.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, some depth. You get Gabe Hall for some depth because, just especially with it going to be hot like that. Don't you want to have a guy in there to, if you need to spell someone or something, to only go in there with, 5 total D linemen, interior D linemen. Maybe you want to have a 6th and use that spot for that. Just thinking outside the box here.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, we've seen him do it. He did it against Kansas City a couple times. Yeah. The only concern I would have there is Jalen doesn't look like he's in
the best shape.
He's not in game shape yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's game shape or if he's just disinterested at times. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping it's the former, right?
Yeah.
So that's the only concern. That's the only reason I wouldn't say put him at the edge. Now the Bucs are only running about 45% of the time, right? Which means they're passing 55% of the time, which is pretty balanced. If they were more run heavy, I'd say do it and see what happens. But I think we need.
You want to get that pressure up the middle, right in Baker's face, especially since he's a smaller guy. You want to get that pressure up in front of his face. I get that.
I could see them bringing up Gabe from like a interior rotation perspective, but not necessarily to flex out Carter, because I think a lot of why we are not succeeding on the edges is because the interior is not getting the push that we wanted.
Yeah,
that you saw. Like the reason that our edges ate last year is because Milton Williams, as we're seeing in New England, is a goddamn man. Like that dude is he's different, right? And kudos to him for getting his money and balling out in New England. But Ojomo is not Milton Williams. He's a good player, and he may need another year to get to that spot. But like that third interior line position or defensive line position is not getting the push that Milton had. Carter's not in the shape that he was towards the end of the year, playing 88% of the snaps. Jordan Davis, on the other hand, is improving and playing 76% of the snaps or whatever it was. So like, I think if Ojomo can string it together, or a guy like Gabe Hall or Ty Robinson to give you a little bit of extra push or fresh legs, excuse me, and then Jalen Carter gets his endurance back or his will to play or whatever it is, that will force the quarterback out of the pockets into the arms of a Jalen Hunt, and some of the more athletic guys we have like Josh Uche. So I think, to your point, the defensive line versus the Bucs offensive line, I think a lot of it's going to have to do with that interior pressure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too. Like, of course it wasn't too much of a concern today, but yesterday on Wednesday, the two linebackers, Zach Bond had a huge knee brace on, which he did not have on today. And then you had Jahad Campbell had a sleeve on, or he had a triceps. He had a sleeve on his knee, but that's beside the point. But it was a triceps.
He's had that
but
since training camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but they both were fine today. So it's at least okay there. I'm going to be interested to see what this defense does, because I do have a little bit of a feeling that when Nakobe is back, I think they're gonna kind of move Jahad around to kind of do a number of things. Or what they could also do is Nakobe's a hell of a blitzer, up the middle. So they could always have him blitzing and doing different stuff there. So it'll be interesting to see. But
and think of it this way: Jahad and Bond, and I said this in the draft when we were talking about prospects. Jahad and Bond both have similar archetypes, right? They're both former edges that moved to off-ball linebacker. They both have the ability to rush the passer, blitz from depth. They both are terrific in coverage. We see a lot where our defense brings an edge down, right? Depending on if they need to set. They start in kind of a 4-2. They bring down an edge, slide the front a little bit, and they turn it into a 5-1 front. What if they did something like that where they line up almost in a traditional 4-3, and then you drop that down and have either Bond or Jahad drop down to that fifth lineman, that edge, that overhang, and then you have Nakobe and Bond in the middle, or you have Nakobe and Bond or Jahad. I'm just saying I think you're onto something, and I've had similar thoughts. I just don't know how they're gonna make it work. But I mean, with Nolan being out, maybe you ask a guy like Bond to play a little more edge, or a guy like Campbell to play a little more edge.
So the other thing I do want to bring up too is when you take a look. So Nolan Smith's on IR. It's at least 4 weeks. Okay. So, which means he's going to be out until at least
game, I think. Right.
Well, the Broncos game actually is next week, and then it's the Giants. Then it's I forget who they play in between the Giants and the Giants.
All right. So hold on. We're looking at Tampa Bay. So that's 1 week. Denver's next week. My bad. Nakobe is eligible for next week.
Yes.
Then they have New York.
Yep.
At New York. Then they have at Vikings. And then
he would be eligible that next Giants game, which is what? October
26th.
October 26th. And then
I would be surprised if he plays then. I would assume they give him that extra week at the bye, and he's back for the Packers on November 10th.
And I want to bring that up because the NFL trade deadline is November 4th, I believe.
Ooh.
So in a couple weeks here, the trade deadline, which I believe the Eagles will be active. And I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm not going to say a person, but remember a couple of years ago when I think it was the Bills. The Bills made a splash for Von Miller. Was it the Bills who traded for Von Miller? No, the Rams. It was when the Rams went to the Super Bowl. I think it was when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, I believe. Or maybe not the Super Bowl. Let me look. Because I remember when Von Miller was traded to the Rams, and it was like huge because it was he's been on so many damn teams.
I know.
Recently.
I know.
2021.
November 1st. For a second and a third.
Yeah. So he was
from the
traded
Broncos to the Rams.
Yep. Second, third, he was traded from the Broncos to the Rams. So that was a trade deadline. To me, I just have a feeling the Eagles are going to make that type of deal.
Do you have a position in mind? I know we've talked about it.
An edge rusher. I don't think they're going to go for. I don't think there's going to be a corner. I just. You know what?
That's
I guess maybe. To me, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking an edge.
Interesting.
Um,
I
'cause
don't. I think
I
you're
would-
right. I think the two positions we need to attack are edge and corner.
listen, I know like corner 2 is a big need, but
Yeah.
I don't see the Browns trading, Denzel Ward or even Newsom. I just don't think they're gonna. I don't know. I just don't see that.
I could see Newsom getting moved. Just because he's on a contract year, they're not doing anything anytime soon. I could see a guy like Newsom being moved. I don't see a guy like Ward because he's too much of a cornerstone. The Browns are idiots though, so like who knows? I could also see. I know I'm probably going to get some eyeballs on this. Some weird looks, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Jets considers moving Sauce.
Interesting. Again, I don't. Only the Eagles would be interested in that just because of the cost, and I don't think so. But
Well, and that's where I don't know if I agree.
Jets, and that's where
Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah. Or let me give you an under the radar, not a splash move, but a guy I wouldn't be mad if you gave like a mid to late round pick for if it's available. No. Which there is a Bryce Huff tracker. If he gets 8 sacks, have a great year because we get the 4th round pick.
Pretty sure he's halfway there.
I'll bring up this name that I'm talking about, but isn't it crazy? The Eagles next draft could have a first, a second, 2, 3 thirds, and 3 fourths. So they'd have
and 2 fifths. What?
Well, they did trade.
They had 4 fifths.
Did they have 4 fifths? Okay, but I believe 4th round pick at the end of the 4th round. I don't know. Is that 100 yet? Yeah, I think it's over 100.
The 3rd round. 3rd round gets you the 101.
So they're gonna have 5 picks in the top 100 if they don't trade any. But getting back to the Jets, Michael Clemens. Or I wouldn't mind getting a Keon White from the Patriots. Now these are lower level guys. The splash moves like a Jermaine Johnson or someone along that. Maybe if the Bengals keep losing, maybe they deal Trey Hendrickson. But I just don't see the Eagles trading for a guy that I can see them trading for a young guy who is a Jalen Phillips, somebody that is not on a new deal, but there would be a splash. A Jermaine Johnson would be a pretty decent splash, but a Jalen Phillips would be a big splash, in my opinion.
Jalen Phillips is a guy that I have my eyes on just because he's injury prone. He has not had the production that they've wanted because of those injuries, but he has like 36 sacks in like 42 games or something. Like the kid can play when he's healthy. If I were him, I'd want to get out of there and play for an organization that can potentially get me healthy, right? Jalen Phillips would make a lot of sense to me because I think the Dolphins are going to be a fire sale mid-season. Another guy,
I don't think he's going to cost that much for you either.
I don't think so either because of the injuries. And he's young, which is the type of move that Howie loves to make. Another guy that is interesting to me from an edge perspective is, there's 2. One is Kayvon Thibodeau, which I don't know if they would trade him into
probably not in division.
You never know. We said the same thing about McNabb, and then he went to the Redskins. Another name that's interesting to me is Zaven Collins from Arizona. He's another one of those like never really reached the potential that they were looking for. He's actually pretty similar to like a Bond. And then from a cornerback perspective, a guy that we haven't talked about, L'Jarius Sneed for Tennessee. I feel like he wouldn't be super expensive because he's 20. I think he's 29. He's coming off a big contract.
So they'd 29 this year.
They'd likely eat some of that. So you could probably get him for like a 5.
Crazy part is he hasn't had. Now he's only played 8 games in Tennessee. He was hurt last year. Yeah, only played 5 games last year and 3 games this year. Has not had an interception at all yet. with
Yeah.
the Titans.
Well, he's never really been an interception guy.
No, he only has 10 total in his career.
Yeah, he's never been a big, like, I don't want to say ball hawk because I think his ball production is actually great. Check out his pass defense. Like, I feel like he has quite a bit of pass breakups.
He's got 3 so far this year in 3 games. He's got 43 total.
When he gets his hand on the ball, he doesn't necessarily pick it off. That's like the one drawback to him. But he had a pretty nice battle with Devontae Adams already this year. He lost 1 or 2 of those reps, but everyone does, except for Q. So he's another guy I think would not cost you a lot. He'd be eerily similar to like another Titans player, Byard, a similar type of trade there where he might give you a little bit, but not like all pro level play, but better than Adoree Jackson. Anyway, just some thoughts. I've been browsing because there's been a lot of smoke around the Eagles making a move at the trade deadline. Either for I've only heard corner, but edge makes a lot of sense to your point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And again, you never know. Maybe Aziz, boosts the pass rush. Maybe Obo boosts the pass rush. I don't know what happens there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they just
Uche's been playing really well.
Yeah,
you just haven't gotten him yet.
Do they just go with what they have, and hopefully the 2 guys who have been sitting that they signed in the offseason, maybe one of those guys breaks out and you have another pass rusher to go along with them. Maybe that's their hope, and then their focus shifts to a potential cornerback number 2. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. It's going to be interesting to see how this offense does against the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles because they have struggled. But it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. But this now brings us to one of the best segments and our favorite segments of every single preview show.
It's time for the Eureka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
And as we look at the locks from last week, Matt, you are right again. You've got 2 out of the last, I think 2 out of the last 3. Out of the first 3, I guess. Doing pretty good. You had Hurts to AJ Brown, so you nailed that. I had the Chiefs winning by 3 scores against the Giants. Well, yeah, they only won by 13 points, so they only won by 2 scores, unfortunately. Yeah. But it brings us to this week's Eureka Locks, and we'll let the reigning locksmith, you like that? Reigning
I do.
Locksmith, Matt, go first.
I'm gonna take a huge swing here.
Oh boy.
I think Penn State is going to upset Oregon. I know it's not necessarily an upset because Penn State's higher ranked, but there are a lot of people saying that Oregon is gonna smoke Penn State. I think Penn State wins this weekend against Oregon for the first time in feels like a decade.
I like it. I like that. I'm going to go in the NFL. I'm not going to go with this game. I'm going to go with another game. And I believe the Kansas City Chiefs will be 1-4 after the weekend. They will lose to the Baltimore Ravens. Wow. Battle of 1-3 teams. One of those teams has to be 1-4.
I don't know which team's worse right now. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
So after Sunday. Okay. Which now brings us to our predictions. And I'll go first on this one. And I believe it's going to be a tough game. The Eagles have played close, scratch and clawing type of games. I believe it's going to be somewhat similar to that. They're playing Tampa. Tampa seems to have their number, as we know, as we talked about. But I think the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, having his weapons, having Devontae, having AJ, having Lane at right tackle, having Dallas Goedert back, having the weapons and the personnel, I believe that they're able to be victorious. And I think the Eagles are able to get at least 3 sacks on Baker Mayfield. I think we're going to be able to get to that offensive line.
All right.
And I have the Eagles winning 27-20.
Wow. All right. I am going to go with a similar feeling here. I think the defensive line, especially the interior, is gonna make it a problem for Baker, especially without the weapons that he may or may not have, specifically Evans. But if Godwin doesn't play, I think we should be able to get some decent pressure. I think the Eagles will squeak one out, 27-24.
Okay.
Part of me wants to go 27-21, but I feel like we're gonna hold them to a couple field goals.
Okay. It's gonna be a fun game. Hopefully, come out with the win, go to 4-0. But with that, as we always do, we thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you're doing all that fun stuff.
Drink your pickle juice for the weekend.
Drink your pickle juice for the weekend. Yes.
Stay hydrated, friends.
Stay hydrated. It will be hot and humid.
Yep.
But make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribing. All the channels. Just make sure that you are supporting us. We appreciate it. Everything. And with that, as we always end it, with a very happy and joyful Go Birds!
Go Birds!
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, aka Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.